Hey guys, welcome back. I got the Golf R ready. We're gonna do the rear brakes. All right, so to get this done, we're gonna be using Zimmermann rotors and AT pads. Both of these you can get from FCP Euro. I did not buy them. They actually came with the car from the last owner. So thank you so much. All right, so before we do anything, before we lift the car, let's check on our brake fluid level. And the reason we're doing that is because later on in the process, when we go and push the piston of the caliper back in, that's gonna raise the level inside the container. And if it's topped off all the way right now, what's gonna happen is that it's gonna spill over and you're gonna have brake fluid in your engine bay. So let's check on that level. And if we have to remove some, we do, but it should actually be slightly below max right now because it's going to come down as the pads wear down. Looks like the fluid is just below the max, so we are good. We have enough space. All right, first thing we gotta do is get this corner up in the air and take off the wheel. All right, we got the wheel off, but don't start taking parts off just yet. There's a very important step that you need to do, and that is to put the rear brakes in their service position. So there are workarounds. I don't know how to do them. I happen to have the tools for it, so I'm gonna do it the correct way. All right, guys, so for this, I'm gonna be using the Carista dongle. This is an old dongle. They have a new one now, but there's nothing wrong with this one, so I'm not gonna spend that money, right? So let me plug it into the OBD2. We're going to turn on the ignition. We are not going to turn on the car, so keep your foot off the brake and just hit the start button. We just want ignition power. All right, so the way you use it on the Carista is that you go ahead and make it connect. Then you go to electronic parking brake service. And you scroll down and you have the options to open or close. We want to go ahead and open it. Just go ahead and follow the disclaimer there. Hit yes. And then we wait. And at the top, it'll tell you if it's in progress and when it's done. All right, so by doing what we just did is that we basically had the car bleed out the pressure that was built up on the parking brake actuator. So that way, when we push the piston back in, it'll actually go in and you won't be fighting it as much and you won't damage anything, which is the more important part. All right, guys, something very important to say is also that once you have the rear brakes in their service position, do not touch that brake pedal until you are done with it and you take the service position back out, okay? Because you can break things. Don't do that. So now this is done, we're ready to put on the pads, but we can't do that just yet because now this rotor is slightly thicker and the pads are definitely a lot thicker than what it came out with. So this piston here needs to be pushed back in. That's where this comes in. It's just a pad spreader. So we're just gonna go ahead and turn it until it gets into position, and we're gonna go ahead and push that piston all the way to the bottom of the caliper. And you slowly turn this, and then it pushes the piston back into the caliper until it hits the bottom. All right, there you go, done. Now we can put the pads on. Something to keep in mind is that you have one pad that has bunny ear springs, and then this one that does not. The one with the bunny ear springs goes on the inside against the piston. The one without it goes on the outside here. Off the screen, I went ahead and cleaned up the sliding pins. You can grease them if you want to. If you don't want to, sure, but I recommend you grease them. But I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of anti-seize on them real quick, and then I'm gonna slap them on. Now we go ahead and put the spring back in place. Start from one side and then go over to the other side. All right, so now that this side is all done, let me go ahead and repeat the other side off camera, and I'll be right back with you guys when I finish. All right, so the brakes are almost done now. Don't get too excited, don't drive off just yet. We still have 2 steps to do. We need to undo the rear brake service position, number 1, and number 2, we need to pump the brakes. All right, here we go back into Carista. Let's go ahead and connect. We're gonna go back into electronic parking brake service. Scroll down to the bottom again, and this time we're going to hit close. Go ahead and hit yes. Then scroll to the top, wait for it to finish. There we go. All right, so now the electronic parking brakes are in the right position. Now all we need to do is pump the brakes, and you're ready to go for a drive. Alright guys, so you see how easy it really is to do the rear brakes as long as you have the right tools. With that said, I hope you found it useful, and if you did, please give me a like, consider subscribing, and like I always say, more projects for the Jetta and the Golf R. Thank you so much.